Welcome back to my channel. This is day 7 with my Player's Choice Mustang for the 2020 Fort Worth, Texas Mustang Makeover. I'm just going to start off by doing sending exercises, disengaging the hindquarters, just having her go around and working on upward transitions and downward transitions. Just a little bit of a review from what we did in the prior days. So here I'm going to work on padding again. I started this on day 6. It's great to desensitize them to the feel and the noise of it. She's a lot more relaxed with it today. Yesterday she was more tense, but she's still tense today, but significantly better. You can see she still kind of sways her neck away when I go to touch her. So I do a combination of the padding and the rubbing because she knows the rubbing is good and relaxing. That's kind of the buffer to teach her the padding is good. So here, and I'm really horrible with like lariats and ropes like that. So here I'm just trying to get it over her neck because I'm going to have her step through it and put it around her belly. Now, normally I would just take a lead rope and tighten it from a close distance, but recently I've liked doing it from a further distance away in case they do decide to kick out and I'm not totally in their line of fire and I'm not in their way, and it kind of gives them some wiggle room to do what they want. So just going to have her step right through it. This is to prepare her for getting girthed up, to feel that pressure under her belly and around it. Good. And I'm not going to tighten it right away. Just going to leave it loose but tight enough that it will stay where I want. So I send her out, and right off the bat it slips back further than I want, so I ask her to stop because I really don't want to move it so far back that I'm flanking her. I just want to have it in the girth area. So now I'm starting to add pressure to the rope, but I'm going to keep the rope attached to her halter long. She picks up the trot a little bit confused, but that was a great response. She didn't get too nervous, she didn't take off, she didn't buck. So now we just relax there, and I released the rope as soon as she turned in from it. Great. So with this exercise, I'm keeping the lunge line or lead rope, whatever you want to call it, longer. That way I'm not directing her with that. I'm asking her to give into the pressure around her belly. And this is the same concept as leading by the feet, which I do later on in this video. I lead her by one of her front hooves. And she did really great with the belly rope. So again, that's to prepare her for the girth, so I took it off. And right now we're working on the saddle pad. So the first time I introduced them to it, I just let them walk up to it and sniff it. So I kind of sent her up and encouraged her to check it out on her own first. And you'll see a pattern with how I work with it. So I move it around a lot, and then I'll bring it up for them to sniff it. I can't remember if she sniffs it or not, because I remember she doesn't really like touching things with her nose. But I'll move it around away from them, and then back up for them to look at it. And right before they're going to stop looking at it, I'll take it away and start moving it again. Good, so you saw her little flinch reaction, but she's also kind of an internalizer and she freezes a little bit. Not too bad, but again, I'll touch her with it and then go back to that same spot. A little bit more of a reaction on that side. Again, I want to get her used to the movement too, so I'm not going to tiptoe around and just kind of gently place the saddle pad up there just to get it on her. I want her to be comfortable with it going up there, and you'll see later on in this video why that's important. So the first time I put it on more on the neck, and I usually fold it at least in half. So that way it's smaller, and I found that when it's on the neck, that's a less scary position for them, like the wither area. Good, so I send her out, have her walk a little bit, ask her to disengage, and then I take it off. And I don't show all the times I repeat it because it's a lot, but I take it on and off a bunch. And that was a great reaction to it coming off. This is also why I like using like tarps and saddle pads and saddles without them being girthed up, because I like having them learn that when it comes off of them, either to disengage like that, or you'll see in another clip, just continue walking on. So I really like that because she disengaged right when it came off. She didn't freak out and get all worried, and then she went to check it out. So now I have it on the full way. You saw it just flap up from the wind there, and she handled that really well. Again, if you watch the other videos, you can see how much softer her disengaging is just from 2 days ago. Another thing I do this with whips too, when I'm kind of swinging them around, is I'll swing it and then back up and have them walk towards it. So I'll do a lot of the saddle pad at the walk and the trot, back to moving it around, and then I'll throw it right back up there. Again, I'm not being too cautious about it. Never want to tiptoe around anything. That was a really good reaction to it too. So I like them to be able to disengage when it falls off and just relax right from there, so they know they get worried and they relax, but I also want them to learn to keep working through it. So here I put the rope on the ground in a loop and have her step into it with her front leg. Again, the only reason I'm using gloves is because I'm really not comfortable with lariats. I'm just not good at it. So the purpose of this exercise is to get her leading by her feet. Now right there, when I was just wiggling it around, that was to get her used to the rope and where it was and just movement in that area. So she's putting all of her weight on the foot I'm asking her to pick up. Right there, she picks it up. So I'm going to release just from that effort. And eventually I'll start wanting more. I'll want it to be not so aggressively picked up and snapped back down, but at the start you just take whatever you can get. Good, so that time I was able to help place it down a little bit. And again, I try not to use too much of the lead rope when I start this. If they're really getting stuck, then I will. But I try to get them leading strictly off of the hoof. Good, so I just keep holding it until she stands still and relaxes. Again, still holding the pressure. She wants to look at it or try to bite it off. Good, and that was a nice step forward. Sometimes I will send them out and have them move around with the rope on their leg just to get used to the feeling, and then I'll, pick up their leg off of the circle and try to get them in. But for this mare, a lower energy exercise was going to be just fine for her. Again, she's pretty upset about the rope being on there, but this is good for situations when in a field, if your horse gets tangled up in something, or if you have them tied up and they get tangled up in something and they panic. This helps them deal with learning how to be in restraints. So same reason I don't mind hobbling. Hobbling is good. It teaches them how to be safe when they get into situations that are a little sticky. So there, I ended with that last one because she picked it up pretty quietly. And again, I go to some rope desensitization, which I've been doing for quite a few days now. But going back to leading by the feet, I did do the other front hoof too, but I only showed one because it's pretty much the same for the other side. I really like using English saddles to start because I can throw them up with one hand. They're a lot lighter. Again, I have them move around. I also have them move around with them just sitting up there too, just like with the saddle pad. I don't mind if it falls off. Good reaction there. All she did was kind of flick an ear back at it and flinch. You can see she just released right then. So I throw the pad up there just like I'm tacking up any horse. Put the saddle up like I'm tacking up any horse. And if you notice, there's 2 surcingles in the round pen and 2 girths. And I have a girth on the saddle and the saddle pad. I try to tack her up with it. It doesn't fit. So I try again with another girth. I tried to put a surcingle on first, but neither of them would fit, so I had to go straight to the saddle. And right there you see I had a lead rope tied up to the girth so I could pull it under fast. I didn't want to be in there for too long. And I pretty much girthed it up slow because I don't want to tighten it as fast as I can because that's an unnecessary amount of pressure, and I already did the rope exercise with her. I'm going to get out of there as soon as I can once I have it on her, just in case she does decide to react from it. And then I start sending her around at the walk trot, and I think I did have a few canter steps at some point. But that was good. That was her first time trotting with it on. She took a couple steps and had a good reaction. But yeah, usually I like to start with a surcingle because it's less equipment, it's not as much, but I just could not get either of them to fit her. And then I tried with like 2 different girths before I was able to get one that fit. I'm just going to keep encouraging her forward and then relax when she does go. My saddle doesn't have any stirrups on it simply just because that one just didn't have any on it for probably about a year. So I tacked her up, as you saw in my iPhone video, and then I left her for a little while with tack on, and she definitely rolled with my saddle on. You can see the dirt on the saddle pad, and that definitely wasn't there. Yeah, you rolled with my saddle on. Sorry for the view here. I didn't realize one of the Western saddles was in the way. But after her break, I came back in and did some work with the flag. Good. And sometimes after I ask them to canter, I'll disengage right away so they know the canter is good and they can relax, because for a lot of horses it's pretty tricky to start holding the canter for a long time in the round pen. But for her, I still wanted to encourage the forward movement afterwards. So I'm not going to back off the pressure until she picks the canner up, and as soon as she does, I quit asking. Very quiet yield. So I let her check the flag out, rub it all over her again, because I just used it to help get that forward movement. So now I'm going to show her that it's okay, and I'm also working on touching her legs with it. Good. So as soon as she holds still, I'll remove it and go back to a part that I know she's comfortable with. So we're doing quite a bit with her front legs today, as far as leading her by her front feet, working with the flag. And I do a lot of patting on the saddle, and I rub it, and I make as many noises as I can with it. I'll slap the stirrups down a couple times. So I'll do a little bit more rope work, because it makes a little bit of a different noise when I throw it onto the saddle. Sometimes it feels really different to them when they're wearing tack. And I'll do the snaking that you saw me do in the past couple days. Really whatever I can to desensitize them. But at the same time, you see when I send them out and I'm asking for higher energy tasks, I also want them to be sensitized to the objects enough. I also start working on flexing, which that was the first time I ever flexed her, and she was pretty supple. I barely even had to ask her to hold it, so I released. I just lift up and bring it back to the saddle. She was a little stiff shooting back right there, so I asked her to flex one more time to that side. So I hold the tension until they find the release on their own. Good. And now working with the front legs again, just going to work on touching with my hand. I still don't trust her that much at this point, which is why I have my other arm up guarding her if I need to. So I think that's the furthest I've ever touched down her legs to her kneecaps. And now the ungirthing. Luckily I've done a lot of work with the ropes, but you're always uncertain about how they're going to be, so I rub it on her legs before I totally drop it. Sometimes you'll have them kind of jump to the side, and it's tricky when the girth is falling on the side opposite from you. So as soon as I take the tack off, I put the saddle pad right back up there. And I do this a lot, probably at least for the first 3 times saddling them. As soon as I take the tack off, I'll put the saddle pad back on them. Thank you for watching. I'm hoping to have the next video out pretty soon. I'm probably going to start just doing weekly videos or 2 videos a week because it's just a lot to edit everything. There's still going to be this length, probably a little bit longer, because now it's going to have about 6 or 7 days worth of footage in each video. But yeah, this was day 7.